I actually ended up 3 times going into A&E with it. The first time was quite a horrific experience going in because actually nobody wanted to come close to me, and I was very much left in a room on my own with very little communication. The big, huge sign was outside the door. Then it was a decision was taken to send me home. Um, I then went through the virtual COVID wards. They were then ringing me up every day, and they then wanted to make another decision to send me back in again. Off I go. Obviously, the long waits for the ambulance to get in, but eventually I make it in at like something like 4 in the morning or 6 in the morning. I can't really remember now so far back, but I got in there again. Similar circumstance, sent me back home. At this point, I'm reluctant to let them call an ambulance for the third time, but they did as I hit 88% on my oxygen, struggling, really struggling to breathe at this point. Um, and I went into the ward, and at this point, the doctors and all came around. They'd done an assessment of me. It was quite daunting because there was so much in the news. There was so much worry, fear that was out there. And you were hearing stories of people being put onto ventilation machines and not coming back from them. At the time, I believe, was quoting 50-50 chance. At that point, the doctor walks in and says to me, Mr. Woods, I think we're going to have to surrender you to a ward tonight. I'm going to put you onto the Wellington ward. This is the COVID ward. My heart sunk a little bit at that point because I have a wife, I have 2 children, and I was starting to get a little bit scared. Again, I think with what was happening in the news at the time didn't help to alleviate the anxiety. He then says to me, looking at your oxygen sats tonight, there is a 50-50 chance that at some point throughout the night we may have to put you onto a ventilator. Again, that horrible pitted feeling in the stomach, to when he then follows it with, and there's a 50% chance you won't come off it tonight. Um, I didn't know how to feel. Emotional, I think, was running through me, although I managed to contain it. I then had to put the phone call back home to explain to my family what was going on. That created a lot of emotion. And then I was pretty much sort of putting masks and everything and wheeled up, probably within about an hour, up to the Wellington ward. At this point, communication from home became more difficult. They put me into a side room, and literally it was the room next to the big white curtains, as I refer to it as. And in there, I was watching people going in, zipping up behind them. And of course, you've seen the news. You knew they were going in to deal with people. And one of the nurse, I believe one of the nurses or could be healthcare assistants, came out, and then he came to check on me. And I said to him, "What's it like in there?" And he said to me, "3 out of 4 won't come out tonight." And at that point, I was very scared, thinking that's where I could end up. I was very lucky that my oxygen levels managed to pick up. The support and help and oxygen and everything that they were giving me allowed me to turn a corner. And in doing so, it was about 2 o'clock in the morning. They came around to me and said, I mean, I've no idea at this point how long I'd been in hospital, but it was about 2 o'clock in the morning. They came and said, "Mr. Woods, we're actually quite happy with your results. You can go home in the morning." And I said, "Do I have to wait till then?" And they said, "Well, if you can find someone to pick you up, you can go home. By the time you've done your paperwork, you can go home sooner." I was on the phone to my wife, and within an hour, she picked me up, and I was out of there. There was no way I wanted to stay and be the other side of the white curtains.